The conversation today would be about the house and how the house provides a space which is safe for refugees and asylum seekers to engage in social activities. It also offers job trainings, language classes, and counseling services like legal, medical, psychological services, help refugees and asylum seekers to navigate and participate in the Danish society. The Danish system is particularly tough, and maybe you can just give us an idea about how tough it is and what is the condition that an asylum seeker is facing when arrives to Denmark.
Yeah. Denmark is a little bit different than the Italian system or the Greek system. When people arrive to seek asylum here, they are accommodated in asylum centers. Then the police establishes or attempts to establish if you say you are who you are. And based on those identification processes, you take a written interview with the Danish Immigration Service. Then you will be moved to an accommodation asylum center until your case has been settled. In the accommodation centers, you are not allowed to work and you can't take an education. You can do various internships, and you are given a cash allowance from the state that allows you to buy shampoo, toothpaste, toilet paper, and food. The asylum centers are mostly housed in old military barracks or run down mental hospitals. People live quite remotely and isolated in these centers and have difficulties accessing organizations like the Trampoline House and different kind of legal organizations. If you are accepted, you will be moved into a municipality out of this principle that the Danish government want asylum seekers to be dispersed throughout the country and not to get like big concentrations of refugees around the bigger cities. If you are rejected, if your asylum claim is rejected, your case is automatically tried by something called the Danish Appeals Board. And a certain percentage are granted asylum, but the people who aren't are then moved to what we call deportation centers. You're moved to a deportation center if you don't want to leave the country voluntarily after your rejection. People have many reasons for not wanting to leave. People are, in general, of course, scared of going back to the place that they fled. There's a reason why they fled. But there are also countries that won't accept you back, where Denmark doesn't have a so-called repatriation agreement. And if Denmark doesn't have a repatriation agreement, Denmark can't deport you by force. And that means that you could basically stay in these deportation centers indefinitely. In the accommodation centers, people obviously are hoping to be granted asylum. And in the deportation centers, people are waiting for the police to come and take them by night and forcibly deport them. The Danish system is really designed to keep asylum seekers and rejected asylum seekers apart from Danish society. If you have been waiting months and months or years and years in an accommodation center or an asylum center, you are slowly destroyed mentally and physically. So the first step is really to try to encourage people to come to the house. And once they enter the house, we will ask people what their skills are, what their resources are. It's kind of this attempt to awaken people again and give them a feeling that this is their space, and Trampoline House needs them as much as they need Trampoline House. It's a holistic attempt in the sense that if you agree to be part of the house, we will offer you an intern contract, 1 day of a practical internship. Could be helping in the help desk, cooking our daily meal in one of the kitchen teams, do childcare for the refugee kids and asylum kids who are coming, or help clean the house. And the other day of your internship focuses on education and capacity building. So you can take language classes, our democracy class, or you can join our women's class, which is focused on empowering refugee women. We have quite a few Kurdish Iranian women in Trampoline House at the moment, and because Denmark doesn't have a repatriation agreement with Iran, they are stuck in deportation center. Some of the women are in the process of learning how to read and write and speak Kurdish only. So we translate into Farsi and Arabic and English in order to communicate to all the women. And some of the women were completely silenced by the system, didn't say anything for 6 months, not at all, not even their name. But to have women in women's class slowly awakening and start to realize that they can speak up for their rights, and they can speak up against the injustices that are committed towards them, is really amazing. It is not only the Danish asylum system, obviously, that has silenced people and deprived them of all hope. Many of the people in Trampoline House also come from totalitarian regimes where you risk a death sentence if you speak critically against the regime. So it takes years and years to grow self-confident enough to be able to speak critically. And this is what Trampoline House is doing as well. Trampoline House was formed by artists and is an example, I think, of what socially engaged art is able to do. We're almost 10 years old in November. We have a physical platform that is there for hundreds of people every week. And we've always talked about that maybe for the users in Trampoline House, it's not important for them that it is an artwork, but for the art world, it is very important that something like Trampoline House can be established. The art world needs Trampoline House as an example more than Trampoline House needs the art world. It is important to show the international community that art workers can come up with something quite remarkable. Trampoline House as a space really functions according to socially engaged and activist art and feminist methodologies, and we've just come up with very different ways of sharing spaces and operating against borders of inequality and difference that only the art world really has produced.